Well, actually, the name is Consigliere. Where do you know that word from? Those of you who are old like me.
You're going to be with a problem.
Yeah, the Godfather. Tom was his name. He happened to be a lawyer, and what do we know about Tom? Tom was always in the room, and he said very little, but he listened very much. He was the guy that the Godfather said, I got to have him in the room because he's going to hear things I don't hear. He's going to give me a perspective I don't have, and I need to get counsel from him. So I want to tell you how quickly things, that's the last page, just so we know.
Technical difficulties, I do volunteer here. One moment, I'm sorry.
Is it the mic at the bottom?
Well, I can keep going. You don't need visuals if you're listening to me, right? I'm a storyteller. I'll make visuals. So I want to tell you how quickly things can change. On about January 6th or 7th this year, I was talking to a friend, and she said, what are you looking forward to most this year? And I said a couple things that I would normally say, and then these words came out of my mouth. I said, I'm looking forward to making a ruckus. I don't think I've ever used that word before. It was a brand new word, and I went, oh my God, that might be my word for the year. Because see, I don't believe in resolutions anymore. I don't do New Year's resolutions. I'll tell you why. Do you know what January 13th is?
Quit day.
Quitter's Day. 92% of all people quit their resolutions by January 13th. I'd say resolutions are a bad plan, or maybe we should make them on January 14th, and at least we beat Quitter's Day that way. So I said, well, I'm gonna make a ruckus this year. But I said, what's that look like? So on January 6th, I decided this is going to be the year of making a ruckus. On about 2 weeks later, I quit my job. 3 weeks later was my last day. This was formed on February 21st. So a lot changed in about 4 or 5 weeks. So if you're sitting around waiting for the best time, stop waiting around, because here's the reality of life. It's always the right time for the right thing. It is always the right time for the right thing. So here's what I was thinking about. I have been in business of some sort for about 40 years. I know it's hard to believe because I'm so young looking. And half of those years were as a lawyer, and half of those years were as a business coach or consultant doing other businesses, doing business development. So I know a lot about law, and I know a lot about business. And we don't usually think that lawyers know anything about business, but I'm the oddball. I'm also an incredible noticer and a listener. I can look at interactions, sit in a meeting, and I see and hear things no one else saw or heard. And I said, well, I'm like Tom, the consigliere. So I said, what's that going to look like? So here's the problem that you all are familiar with, that a lot of people in the legal profession won't talk about. They won't admit. So here's 5 things that entrepreneurs, just do one at a time, can do with their money. And it's never this big a stack, right? One is I can pay to develop whatever I'm creating. I invest in the creation of what's yet to come. Or I can pay for sales and marketing of that thing I've created. Or I can pay professionals. Or I can eat. Or I can have a roof over my head. This is reality. This is not a game, but too often people go to get legal advice, and the lawyer says, I need this much money, and it's a number that blows our minds. They tell us what they're worth an hour, and we say, oh my God, our knees buckle. We say, yes, but I'm really valuable. I don't care how valuable you are. If this is the reality, where am I going to spend my money? I'm not paying professionals. And I get it. A lot of lawyers, most lawyers don't get it. And they've been saying for decades, come see me when you got money. So I was working back in some law firms trying to close the gap with entrepreneurs and coming up with unique billing structures and fixed fees. But the bottom line is I still couldn't get there. Because this is the problem. Keep going. Come back when you have money. There's a very short-term focus for most lawyers. I'm gonna do work, I need to get paid for it right now. I'm looking for right now. I need immediate return, and I'm not gonna adjust my timeline for your timeline. Because my timeline's more important than yours. And I said, I get that, it's logical, but it leaves entrepreneurs hanging. So I said, let's do something different. Go ahead. What if you had a business advisor that knows a lot about the law? Keep going. What if you don't really have to do it alone? You saw that first slide that says feeling alone as an entrepreneur is a given, but being alone is a choice. What if you had a modest monthly retainer, almost like an insurance premium? You got unlimited phone calls and emails, and you got all your basic work covered. Even if the work got done before the money got paid. Isn't that a crazy thought? Isn't that a crazy thought? Because I realized that other than getting paid nothing for what I do, and I won't do that because I do add value. What if I said, I'm going to put myself in your shoes, and I'm going to do it in a way that works for you. And we're going to look at your business, see where you are, see what makes sense for you financially, and we'll adjust it every once in a while. And I have people, the great thing is the people who have already come to me have said, this is really unfair, Jeff. I gave you all this work to do and you're not going to get paid for it for 6 months. I said, that's the model. That's the model. And I've had friends say, Jeff, you're crazy, you need to change the model. And I said, if entrepreneurs don't want this model, I'm closing it down. Because I am not doing it the old way. Because the old way is not a ruckus. And it's time for a ruckus. And these are some questions I'll ask you in a moment or invite you to ask me. But I'll tell you right now, at this stage of my life, I still do other things. I do business coaching, I do business consulting, I do leadership development. And I said, I'm going to keep this because this allows me to put my head on the pillow every night and say, I feel good. I'm actually doing something good. And I love feeling good. So thank you. Consigliere Legal.